Last week, we were with Rad KTM Paul on top of Franschhoek Pass, celebrating 30 years of KTM's naked range of motorcycles, the Dukes. Or if you have an unnaturally massive engine, a Super Duke. In this case, it was the Cape's unveiling of the new Super Duke, the 1390 Super Duke. And here it is, and you might notice that it looks somewhat different. It's more slender, with wings underneath the handlebars to try and probably fail to keep the front wheel down. And where the previous models had a sort of praying mantis death face, this looks like a zombie praying mantis, with the same LED daytime running light skull, outlining the headlights that are now sockets instead of a smooth exterior. It means it wants to kill you, but you can't kill it back. We said we were going to ride this new beast, so here we are. Look at that, 30 years of Duke. Very fitting. Oh, it starts with a growl. Yeah, it starts with a Can you believe this? Can you believe it? Literally a 1400 twin. 1,400 well, round it off. 1,400 cc's in 2 cylinders on a motorcycle with no fairing. I mean, not like a cruiser, you know, they're just big things that slowly sort of dump. I mean, a sports bike, a sport 1400 cc V-twin. I mean, it's a Nissan Champ Bucky, but with 2 cylinders and lots of anger. Mind you, I've seen champs be angry. Not as angry as the drivers, though. Well, when we say 1400, we actually mean 1350cc in the 75-degree V-twin. 49cc more than previously. But it also gets new variable valve timing that helps flatten the power curve even more. And an airbox with improved ram air. So therefore, we're allowed to fib slightly and say 1400. Okay, I guess it just leaves one thing, to open the throttle. Sorry, give me a moment. Okay. First gear. Ah, whoa! I've ridden faster motorcycles than this, I have. I mean, there are super bikes that are faster than this, but it's the way this thing, the way it makes the acceleration happen, the sort of pantomime of it, the way it growls and grunts and it's just forcing itself through the air, forcing itself through gravity, forcing itself through friction, don't care. It's an angry motorcycle, and I love it. Riding on the back of a raging bull, it's just mental. That increase in capacity is largely there to overcome the new Euro 5 emission laws that it now has to comply with. Those laws do a great job sapping power and adding weight, making life less fun. But KTM have risen to the task and overcome it. The 1390 gets 10 more horsepower than the last 1290, bringing the tally up to 190 horsepower. The torque is also increased from 140 to 145 Newton meters. And all that is improved substantially by the stealth slip-on that KTM Pole have added. There's nothing like more thunder. Oh, that exhaust. All bikes need exhaust. As far as I know, the standard exhaust is pretty good, but this, put the aftermarket on it just changes the whole character. Makes it even angrier. Ah! The bull was angry before, now its eyes are red and it's huffing and puffing. So the raging bull is now bigger and even angrier. You would think that would make it unrideable, and yet weirdly, KTM have boxed clever there too. Although I will say the throttle, even in this one, in track mode, it's currently in track mode, which is the sort of sharpest, it's quite controllable. I mean, the first Super Duke, the first one, it was sort of kind of on off switch. I mean, it's just sort of, your choices are death or faster death, one of the two.
This one is like, well, you could die kind of slowly now. Sort of, you can kind of control it.
Power is one thing, but where we are, it's only part of the puzzle.
This road is amazing. It's Franschhoek Pass. We've been here before. It's one of the best racetracks in the world. I mean, okay, technically it's a public road, but it's a racetrack. You know what I mean. The surface is brilliant. The scenery is brilliant. You know, if you get time to look at it, of course. I haven't got any time to look at it. I'm just going to believe it's still there and it's still excellent.
And that leaves the task of getting around these corners.
The handling feels very similar to the last Super Duke. The Super Dukes before that sort of didn't quite seem to entirely care about handling. It was more about, here's a really, really big engine, have fun, off you go. The last one, they kind of really refined it, made it much faster turning, much more controlled, much more stable. It's like, previously it felt like the front end wasn't entirely connected to the motorcycle, and then the last model it was, and this one is much the same as that. I mean, I would say that they needed to make big strides in the turning of the bike, but they didn't really. The last one was excellent, and this one is excellent.
Indeed, the steel trellis chassis remains largely unchanged for this model. The WP suspension has received some updates, while the top-of-the-range Brembo brakes remain top of the range.
And to the hairpin, all these brakes are fantastic. So much feel. WP suspension just holds it all together.
Conveniently, the fuel tank is 1.5 litres more for 17.5 litres of go-go juice. From the cockpit, everything looks much the same. The TFT screen is still good, the buttons are the same, and most of the functioning, of which there is plenty, is the same. The difference is under the hood, where all these electronics have been delicately refined to make this build even more exact.
I mean, beyond a giant engine, it doesn't feel like that much has changed on this motorbike, which is fine because, again, the last one was so good. I mean, you could make cases for like the S1000R being a better sort of all-rounder, and the Street Fighter V4 would probably do quicker lap times around a racetrack, and yeah, so on and on and on. But you just kind of smiled more when you ride the Super Duke. I mean, the others all have their things. One's good at, it's like children, it's like people being good runners, and this one's a good swimmer, and that one's a good at high jump, but this was the daddy. The daddy walked out of the house onto the porch, and all the children stopped what they were doing and paid attention. That's the Super Duke. The Super Duke is the daddy.
And that leads us on to problems. And that's a bit of a problem.
The suspension is a little bit hard, but this is a sports bike, so, of course it's a bit hard. Get over it. They make a GT for if you don't want hard suspension. But it's just so stable. It feels so nimble, so light, so everything. I want to criticize. I want to have criticisms, but I'm too overwhelmed. This is my favorite motorcycle. It's my favorite motorcycle. It's been my favorite motorcycle since they first launched it. I rode it once. I fell instantly in love. And while I might look around and appreciate other things, this is my love. I've loved this motorcycle. And it gets better and better and better. They keep improving it. It's like a girl you marry who, as you go through the marriage, as you grow older, she gets better and better and better. And that's the Super Duke. It just gets better, but it's still the same. That same girl you marry, just better.
And the same girl will set you back roughly 369,000 Rand. Although the price really depends on how many gadgets and modes you unlock, and how many extras you add. But in whatever form you configure it, one thing will remain.
This thing's angry. This thing's it's stupid. And we smile, and we love light, and we love it. And thank you, KTM, thank you. There's still fun in the world. There's still fun out there in the world, and it's bikes like this. I don't ever want it to end. I want to carry on riding.